They range from champion footballers, past and present, to men and women of all ages from all walks of life. The common thread is their love of football, the bric-a-brac, the mementos, the trivia and the rarities. You will find them scouring junk shops, at sporting fairs and in the rooms of Australia's most prestigious auction houses. In this show we meet that burgeoning breed who are prepared to spend their hard-earned cash on a piece of memorabilia from years past. It might be a medallion, a footy jumper that has seen better days, or a scrap of paper with the name of a great champion inscribed forever. It may be displayed elegantly in pride of place, or quietly tucked away and put on display on special occasions. They're a rare group with a deep knowledge of football and its personalities. They are the collectors.
For some, it's just a matter of storing the treasures of a wondrous football career. For men like Alex Jesaulenko, a career that spanned 3 decades as a player and coach. For others like Ron Reiffel, it's the task of assembling the relics of a football club's rich history. And then for a bloke like Joe Boyar, the challenge of adding to an already burgeoning collection. Player, curator or footy fan, they have one thing in common: they're all collectors. Ron Reiffel played a handful of games under Jack Dyer at Richmond in the early 50s, but half a century on, the father of long-time Australian Test fast bowler Paul is still at Tigerland, building one of the finest football museums in the land.
Well, I understand you're the first official curator of Richmond Football Club Museum.
Yeah, well, I sort of stumbled on that job because when they opened the museum, I was being retired, was able to come down and file away photos and put up photos, etc. And someone said one day, "Well, you're the curator," so I've sort of I've been stuck with that ever since.
Position of great privilege.
Oh, yeah.
I'm absolutely astonished by the by the wealth of memorabilia you have in here. Everything: photographs, albums, trophies, medallions, caps. How does it feel, someone like you who comes in the mornings, like coming into a cathedral? Richmond Cathedral.
Yeah, it is. It's being a Richmond person for all those years, to see everything that just unfolds before your eyes as you walk in the door. It's really still gives you a kick each time, you know.
It's quite amazing. It has that sort of cathedral-like atmosphere. It's intimate. There's a lot of material here in a smallish space, but yet it looks bright and breezy and airy and marvellously arranged. Now, what is your favourite item, if there is such a thing, among this wealth of treasures here, Ron?
Well, things that most football supporters that are keen on collecting, members' cards always hold a pride of place, and they so do with myself. You'll notice here that this is one I really think is fantastic. We were given this book by a family of one of the players who played in our first game in 1885. In 1932, they gave us this book, and it contains membership tickets in following the club's history, and it starts in 1885.
From the first game?
From the first game that Richmond were formed, the first year they were formed.
Right, and there's the name of the member in there?
Yes, it's James Stewart, J. Stewart, and John Stewart. John J. Stewart. He was he played in the actual first game, and then he played for many years, and then he served on the committee.
Right.
And of course, then his family collected this and gave it through to us.
They presented it to the club.
To the club, and we've kept it going, and we've now got every card that's been put through over all those years. And they're very nice, different designs on the early parts, especially, you know.
It sort of reflects the history of the club as well, the way tastes have changed over the years.
That's right, and each one of them has got the fixture inside, like the little fixture. And a very big plus for us was the fact that every committee was all listed. Every member of the committee was listed. So it's been able to help Trevor Ruddle and Rhett Bartlett, our early historians, to look back and find out who served here. So
yes, and I think a lot of members of Richmond Football Club would have access or be able to collect the odd early members' pass here and there, but be very unlikely to find a complete set, and even more unlikely to find it in an album of that period, 1885, because the date is on the cover,
Yep.
It's stamped in gilt, and the little pockets are the original Morocco leather. Something like this, I would have thought, a collection of the members' passes on their own without such a beautiful presentation album I would think be about $2,000, maybe a little bit more. In an album like this, I would say up to 5,000, maybe a bit more than that.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And now there's one of your earliest trophies over there, the challenge, the Junior Challenge Cup.
Junior Challenge Cup. This little trophy was won by a Richmond team in 1872. It's actually not the club we know today, Richmond, which was formed in 1885, but there were Richmond teams playing in the park here
Yes. And I think the other three teams that played for that cup were Collingwood and Southern, and there's one other, wasn't there?
I think I'm not sure who the other one was.
But it must be one of the earliest football trophies around.
I would say I have seen other Challenge Cups. I think Carlton had one and was in one of the publications, but it was later than that. That's the earliest one that I've
seen. Beautiful decoration, a sort of Greek key pattern border.
It's got the goal kickers and what have you on it.
Marvellous calligraphic engraving. Something like this, because it's so unique, it's the only one of its kind, and so early, I would estimate it at about $50,000, $60,000. Perhaps a little bit more.
It's pretty rare, that one.
Yes, very rare. You've got a marvellous premiership cap from 1902.
Well, that's Richmond, the Richmond club, as we know it today, was their first premiership.
Right,
in 1902. We were in the VFA, of course, in those days, and we joined in 1885, or our club was formed, and we started playing, and it was 1902 when we won our first premiership.
Right.
We won another one in 1905, and then in 1908 we went into the league.
And do we know whose cap this was? Or who it was presented to?
There's nothing on it to say, no, and it's been in the club long before this museum was formed. It was in the cabinet over in the boardroom for many years. But it's had quite a few famous photos taken with famous players putting it on for promotional photos.
Again, I would say, because it's such a unique item and really in quite good condition. Something like about 20,000, 25,000.
Right.
Or something like that. And to go with that, you've got a premiership medallion, I think.
Yeah, that's the earliest premiership medallion, because this was a VFL premiership medallion in the 1920s. It was won by Arthur Bettles in 1920, and that's changed. They've changed them, of course.
Changed the design. That's a marvellous one. I quite like that. The footballer running with the ball, 9-carat gold, something like that. I would say would be about between $5,000 to $10,000.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, that was our first ever premiership in the VFL.
Right. And then it can't be complete without an actual football.
Well, the football, this football belonged to the Strang family.
Right.
And Doug Strang kicked 14 goals with this football. It was presented to him after the game by Sherrans, and it was actually the game that Strang kicked 14 goals, which is a record for this club. No one's kicked 14 goals, and it was in 1931. And in 1931, this game we kicked over 30 goals, and that was a league record that stood till 1969, from 1931 till 1969, when Carlton took the record off us.
And really good condition, isn't it?
It is. It was the Strang family brought that down to us a couple of years ago.
With a beautiful engraved silver plaque. Something like that, again, I would say about 30,000. Now, Ron, we've seen a lot of the treasures in the museum, but to me, what evokes the passion, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the triumphs, the disaster, the despair are these marvellous lockers, because this is where the players get kitted up and come back in triumph when they've won the premiership, or in despair if they've lost it. And it's a marvellous example of basically what happens behind the scenes of a club, so close really to the heart of the average supporter. And this is the sort of thing that they might be able to find if they're out looking for something like this. Can you tell us something about the history of these lockers?
Yeah, when I first started coming around in the 40s, probably they only had a peg on the wall with the players hung their coats and.
Right.
But these were here right through the 60s and the 50s. It's only in the last or say 5 years or so that they've 5 or 6 years they've put in new lockers over in the old pavilion, and they were all put into storage. We were able to accumulate 3, which a little bit hard because they're bolted together. So if you get one, you've got to get 3.
You've got to get 3, the complete section. Some
Yeah.
marvellous names on there.
Oh, they're all our
Minot,
great players.
Bentley,
Yeah, every one of those
Lee.
was some sort of a superstar, and Brownlow medalists. And we picked 1, 2 and 3. Number 17, Jack Dyer's number would have been good, but we picked 1, 2 and 3 because there were so many ex-champions like Brownlow medalists,
Yes.
Roy Wright and
Yes.
Ian Stewart, Brownlow medalists. You know, so Dale Waitman, Roger Dean, champions of the club.
So what actually happened to number 17? Do we know?
17 is probably still in storage.
And is this the original paintwork? It hasn't been repainted?
I think they've been painted various times. You can see by the running on the
But
on
it
the
still
side.
has a bit of age, a bit of wear on the handles.
Oh yes, it's there.
And something like this, if one of your supporters is lucky enough to pick up a set of 3, I would say the individual ones would be about 10,000, 10, 15. Over here you've got about 30, 40, 50,000 worth of lockers.
Well, I suppose when you see them with the names on, the supporters would love them.
Good. Well, I think this is the appropriate space to end on, really. This is where it ends, as I say, and begins.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up on the show, a Bulldog fan with an obsession for the glory days and one of the true legends of Australian football, the mighty Alex Jesaulenko.
Jesaulenko, and Jesaulenko puts it through.
That's next on The Collectors.
Hello, my name's Joe. I'm a Footscray Football Club Western Bulldog supporter and an avid collector of footy memorabilia relating to the Footscray Football Club and the Western Bulldogs. As a collector of Footscray footy memorabilia, we've only got one premiership to concentrate on, 1954, and I'd like to show you some items that I've picked up relating to that grand final win. Okay, so in 1954, you're on your way to the grand final, and probably the first thing you'd pick up would be a pennant celebrating the grand final, and it displays Charlie Sutton and Wally Donald and a list of the team names. This pennant also had an addition put on it at the end when they won the premiership, a little premier's tag's been put on the bottom of it. And you can see 1954 Bulldogs on the bottom there. This probably would have cost at the time, I'm guessing, but probably maybe a few shillings, 50 cents maybe. I picked it up in an auction probably about 10 years ago for approximately $50. Today, these sort of pennants would sell for at least, I think, $200. Okay, Footscray's won the premiership. You're all excited. You go down to the rooms to try and get a few autographs. And here I've got an autograph book which has all autographs of all 20 members of the team, plus a couple of the emergencies, Lionel Ryan and I think Ron Porter. I picked up this autograph book, I forget, years ago, had about a dozen autographs in it. I've slowly managed to gather the other 8 autographs over the years. I think the last one I got was Jim Gallagher's about 2 years ago. I went there, rang him up one day and he said, sure, come down, he signed it for me. So that's all 20 members of the team, E.J. Whitten, Peter Box, Charlie Sutton, they're all there. So you're excited, you've left the room, you've got your autographs, you're on your way home, you stopped to buy your Sporting Globe and your Herald to read about the great victory. And in 1954, Wegg, the resident cartoonist for the Herald, produced his first football Wegg poster. Apparently these were very rare. They were handed out in bundles of newspapers that put on the grills in front of the newsagent, and this is the rarest Wegg poster of all, and the best. When you win your first premiership, there's a great celebration, and the Footscray Football Club had a celebration that evening, and that's the menu from the dinner that was held. Apparently it was all a bit of a shambles if you read the history book, but anyway, they produced this menu. And we open it up here, there's a picture of Charlie Sutton, and you can see what you had for dinner that night. I'm not sure what it was, but... And that was one of the first, they had a few dinners, and that was the first one, which was on Saturday night. Later on in the year, the Footscray City Council had a dinner, and that's an invitation to attend the dinner, run by the Footscray Council, or the Footscray City Council. And then in January, the football club had their official dinner to celebrate the victory. That was in January 1955. And there's an invitation. This was an invitation to the doorman to attend. It lists the team and it's handwritten, addressed to the doorman at the time. The players at the end of the season used to go on trips to interstate cities, and when they went on these trips they were a big deal to the players, and some of the supporters went with them. And they were presented with these souvenirs. Now these souvenirs were only presented to the people on the trip, so there would have only been maybe 50 or 60 produced of them. So these are pretty hard to find items. And this is a souvenir of the trip to Sydney in 1954. It lists the team that went, the support staff, and some of the supporters that went with them too. And no doubt it was a big deal for the players to hop on that bus and go on the trip up to Coogee in 1954. I've managed to pick up a series of pennants from the 1950s from an ex-player who went on all of these trips. And they went to various places. You can see this is a trip to Brisbane, Perth, where they played South Fremantle on a couple of games at the end of the season there. 1958 they went to Adelaide. And Adelaide again, 1957. Ted Whitten, no doubt, was the life of this trip and the chief clown, and he noticed in 1957 he went twice to Adelaide. He's listed twice on the pennant there. In 1955, getting over the disappointment of not making the finals, the Bulldogs went off to Tasmania, and there's a list of the players and the committee and etc. that went off to that trip. When the football clubs went on these trips, the players were given itineraries, and this is an itinerary of that 1955 trip to Tasmania. Inside the details where they went, they spent Tuesday at Cascade Brewery. I think Wednesday they had a day off, and Thursday they showed up to the Cadbury Chocolate Factory. On these end of season trips, the players would have worn their blazers, and this was a blazer from the early 1950s, the type that would have been worn by all players on the trip. And here we have a badge which celebrates or commemorates the 1955 trip, which would have been worn with the blazer. Probably the most passionate thing about in my collecting is my football membership tickets, because membership tickets are such a personal thing, and you can imagine the excitement of someone signing up their membership ticket each year. And I've got some tickets going back to 1905, and you can see the way they've changed over the years. So the various, they were pretty common in the 1950s, the hard cardboard covers. Then I went to the soft cardboard covers, early 60s, 70s, different logos they put on them. In the mid-80s they started to put players' images on them. And now we have today's plastic credit card type cards. This is a 1905 season ticket from the times when Footscray was in the VFA, and they would have played teams like Paran and Preston and Port Melbourne, and their arch rivals Williamstown and North Melbourne. Back in those days, the season tickets had various paper tickets inside, and when you entered the game they would tear off the paper ticket. And this person obviously went to most of the games, but didn't go on September the 9th, but it looks like they went to most of the games during the year. Season tickets from this era are very, very hard to come by and very collectible. This is season ticket number 360, because probably back in 1905, Footscray probably didn't have many more than maybe 1,000 members. And like most other clubs, any season tickets from pre-war days are very, very rare. Probably the greatest player ever, and definitely the greatest player at Footscray, was E.J. Whitten. Back in the mid-60s, the Ampol company brought out a series of records from various, for each team, which their star player in it, and for Footscray was E.J. Whitten. Inside there's a record which is an interview of E.J. Whitten being interviewed by Tony Charlton. These also came with a bumper sticker which you put on your car with 3 years out on them. These are quite easy to come by, though like all football memorabilia they're going up in price all the time. I've probably become a serious collector of football memorabilia since the early 90s, mainly Footscray football stuff. Over the years I've seen most of these items appreciate considerably in value. Not that it would matter to me, because I have no intention of ever selling it.
If you would like our man from Christie's to visit you and value your collection, write to us at The Collectors, Locked Bag 4444, South Melbourne 3205.
Jesaulenko, 40 to 45 yards out.
The mighty Alex Jesaulenko, one of the most gifted and artistic footballers ever to play the game. Over the course of his famous career, the man who led Carlton to the 1979 premiership has managed to keep nearly all his treasures. At his city apartment in Melbourne, he gave us a sneak preview of just a tiny part of the Jezza collection.
I've collected a lot of trophies over the years from all sorts of things, but this one is a special one. This is my first one back in 1960 with the Eastlake Football Club. When I first started playing Australian rules, I just come out of school playing rugby union, and this one I got for most consistent in 1960. When I get something, I put it away and it stays there. Like this jumper here, this is a 1969 grand final jumper worn by Royce Hart. I gave him mine and he gave me his. But I can't remember much about 1969 grand final because we lost that one, and when we lose, we forget. Well, I've played in a few Victorian sides from 67 to 79, but this is a very special Victorian jumper because I think it's 1978, and this is when I captained Victoria. There's the number 1, the big V. The Carlton jumpers, well, back in those days we used to give Carlton jumpers away because memorabilia wasn't very important. But there's a couple there that, the grand final ones especially, that I've kept, and because they are special to me, and we've kept them in storage. Well, this yellow jumper is, funnily enough, a Galah jumper from 1978. But I played with the Galahs in 1967, and in 68 went away with the Harry Beitzel Galah sides. But this one is in 1978 when I was coaching the Galahs team, and brings back lots of memories. And this jumper, the mighty Saints jumper, made a move from the Carlton Football Club when we had our little lovers tiff there, and spent 3 years at St Kilda. Number 25, had a great time down there, although we didn't have much success. This is the last jumper that I played in at the MCG. It was a centenary game, and it'll be the last game I ever play in, but also in that game I was the last person to kick a place kick goal, it was to win the game. And this is a very special ball. This is the ball I kicked 100 goals within the season, as against Melbourne at the MCG in 1970. That year, Peter Hudson, Peter McKenna and myself kicked over 100 goals in that season, which I think is still a record. Well, this is a trademark that everyone remembers, the 1970 grand final, where that mark changed the Carlton's 42-point deficit into a 10-point win. It's made Jerker and myself famous, and thanks to Graham, thanks to his broad shoulders, I was able to leap that high.
There's his high punt kick. It will carry the centre. They adjust into attack, and up goes Jezza, the magician, Mandrake and everything. Took a magnificent mark.
Oh, what a crowd pleaser.
Hi, I'm Robert Parsons from Christie's, and I've been lucky enough to see virtually all of Alex Jesaulenko's fantastic collection of football memorabilia from his career as a player and coach. And what we've seen today is just a fraction of everything that there is. Alex is one of the few people who did meticulously accumulate, with some help from his good wife, all the material of his career. And Alex, there's a few things that take my eye. I particularly liked your 100-game trophy.
Yes, Rob, this is a 100-game trophy at the Carlton Football Club. A very special time in a footballer's career.
Well, this was the golden era, we like to think, of Australian football, the 60s and 70s, when footballers were footballers and trophies were real trophies. The other one I like is the 100-game football, 100 goals in a season football from 1970, and of course that was an important year because 3 players actually
That's true, there was
kicked it.
Peter McKenna, Peter Hudson and myself kicked.
Seen better days, but I'm sure a bit of restoration wouldn't go
well, it is
astray with that
32
one.
years old, Rob.
And one of your earliest trophies, when you were quite a young man, I would think, from when you were playing as a junior in Canberra, which is quite an interesting trophy as well.
It was probably when I first started playing Australian rules, and that was for the most consistent player in the under-15s.
And again, beautifully preserved, not a dent or a scratch in it. You've got so many jumpers, I don't know where to start, but probably this is interesting. From your losing grand final, you got Royce Hart's jumper.
Yes, Royce Hart's number 4, famous Richmond jumper, and he's got mine in Tasmania somewhere.
Oh, well, you probably don't mind him having that one since you didn't win the premiership. The big V must be very proud possession for any player, and of course Victorian state jumpers are probably the most sought after jumpers for collectors, and to have a captain's jumper makes it all that much more valuable. Also your Galars tour jumper from the last tour, and I know that you still have all your material from the first tour in 1967, including a very interesting hat, I think.
Yes, but these jumpers bring back lots of fond memories. 78 Galar trip overseas, and like Royce Hart's jumper, the big V jumper, they all bring back fantastic memories.
Now, Alex, I think you probably own the most famous and possibly the most valuable football jumper in Australian football, the 1970 Grand Final jumper, where you took that fantastic mark over Jerker Jenkins. Would you like me to tell you what we think it might be worth?
Yes, please, you're the expert.
Well, based on the fact that Christie sold Jerker's jumper a few years ago now for about $7,000, do you reckon you were 10 times better than him on that day?
Well, Jerker's 10 times bigger than I was. His broad shoulders helped me get up there.
I think that jumper could well exceed $60,000 to $80,000 if it ever came up for auction.
Oh, good little nest egg for the family.
It would be, and I think it's a credit to you that you've accumulated this collection, and from my knowledge of it, I think you're probably looking, if it ever came on the market and was sold as an entire collection, it'd have to realise in excess of $300,000.
Oh, very nice. A few trips overseas.
Pick you up after that.
Museum pieces, memories of a Hall of Fame superstar, or bits and pieces that have been lovingly gathered and take pride of place in the family home. They are all treasures jealously guarded by that group of people we know as the collectors.